super duper detail, like when it comes to like spell usage and like stuff like this. For me, the thing that I think, so I've watched majority of all of you guys' VODs, and I think what's really lacking, not only for mages, but just all our mediums in general, is just a lot of fundamentals, a lot of war fundamentals, and a lot of just individual understanding in terms of how you're supposed to move, how you're supposed to position, and just generally like what your role is, whether it's within the group or within the raid, based on your position in the raid. And then I've also noticed a really big thing that I want to go over first is how you guys approach the fight, or just generally like how you approach taking space. So you'll see it on our first push here. You'll see it whether it's on the first push, or let's say we've taken B and A is the last flag, we go to A. You will see it there as well, and you will see it when we're in fort, how you guys enter through the gates. It's always the same issue. And what I mean by that is will be really obvious here if we watch it. Obviously, I'm putting Sensei a little bit on the spot here, but I've genuinely seen majority of the players in this company have this issue where when we approach, the first flag, let's say it's B flag here, when we approach this, what I see really often is that we will do a so now if we take a look at the normal quadrant picture, what we'll do, obviously, we'll let me just actually paint with this. It's a little bit easier. Okay. Um, so as soon as we come in, obviously we're coming in a little bit from like this angle, right? We're trying to enter like this. We're going to the sides and going to the sides, and we're entering like this initially. And 99% of the fighting will happen right here and right here. And as you guys have probably experienced, a lot of you die in these zones because 99% of the time, like it's an unfavorable fight if you fight like this. But what I would like to see in general when we're approaching these fights, whether it's the first push on B or whether it's the rotation over to A, or we're entering the fort, is the power of taking space first and then fighting. So if we're assuming that, let's say on the initial, let's say we're baiting to the sides first, like we've been doing, right? Everyone's familiar with this. And then John makes the call that we want to like wrap in, right? For me, the important part is that once you guys move over to the sides, I would want you guys to uh, not take the first fight here, but play as individuals to trickle past, to wrap around and trickle past. And then you guys look for something like this. Or potentially even move over like this and then look for something here, if that makes sense. So for me, the important part is that you're playing to take space first before fighting. Okay? So if we look at this picture, this video here, so you'll see it here, right? Like enemies taking an obvious stance here, and you'll see here, look, all of our blues here. What's happening? Boom. This happens every single time, and it's happening on the other side too. I can tell you this. This right here, it happens every time. So this is the first thing I want all of you to start understanding, is that when we're coming like this here, as an individual, it's fine to move over like this a bit and bait a bit. But right here, for example, Sensei, he should maybe have done a little bit of a wrap like this. Maybe these guys should do a little bit of wrap like this. Or maybe if, okay, fine. We moved over in this area here and we're standing here. Enemies putting so many resources to stop us. Fine, you guys can just hold the space. Hopefully that means that on the other side, we should have space to enter, come over, and sandwich pressure. Okay, and what I mean by that is literally like let's say you're just posturing, you're holding ground. If you see us pushing in on the backline from the left side, and you see any of this entire red group here, for whatever reason, feel like they need to respond, boom, that gives you an opening. Now you can walk in and push through and enter through. Okay, so I want literally no one to be sheeps. Like I want on these first pushes, whether it's John calling, okay, now we're rotating over, or now we're swinging in towards B. Like, don't just turn off your brains and just follow that blindly. Like all of you guys as mages, mage is not a dog role. Mage is as much as a bruiser is right now. It is a super strong individual that is capable of supporting, being a support and like supporting bruises and supporting the raid and stuff like that. but it's very much an individual that is able to, just like a bruiser, walk into position and literally just put body for presence. I'm telling you that this entire group here, if let's say Sensei moved up like this, up into this space, he alone as an individual will make all these people have to look this way, okay? Which then creates space for all of these blues to move in effectively. Does that make sense to everyone?
That's very well explained, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that is that. There is one other thing I think that will immediately increase. So another big fundamental that counts for obviously bruisers as well, but obviously mages and healers as well. It's just the understanding of how we want to play these quadrants, or how we want to play the field around the point. Okay. I think you guys probably experienced it yesterday when we were attacking against Syndogs. It was a little bit tough, right? Because if we again we go back and we look at this quadrant picture, let's assume again Syndogs, right? This is C flag, okay? I'm sure a lot of you probably experienced that a lot of the fighting was probably happening in and around these circles, okay? And obviously the main reason for that is obviously our respawns are coming from this way, right? Potentially like this as well. So what ends up happening a lot is that, you know, and it's the same thing. Like when we're rotating into B as the first thing, or we're rotating into A, even if it's an ongoing fight, if a majority of the fighting is happening in this shit here, the first thing that you do should almost never be to just beeline to the first fight that you see. That's a you know that meme picture of the monkey that says "Where clump." This is what we don't want. So once again, whether it's the fighting is happening here, that's fine. That happens. When you're coming in, again, play to take that space first and look to add value, because I'm telling you, like, you'll experience it really often. Like, what you'll see happen is as more of us as individuals do these things and move into these spaces or into these places where putting body and putting presence has a lot of value, what you'll end up seeing is that because you're putting your body here, you're forcing the opponent to feel like they need to respond or feel pressured. They can't just stand here and let themselves be sandwiched, right? So they're going to immediately feel the presence. And so again, what ends up happening is that we as individuals are able to push our raid, advance our raid, and we're able to push up simply by just a couple of individuals putting their body. Okay. The other thing, so the big thing here is, so if we take, a lot of the fighting that's happening around the point, so let's say, a lot of the fighting happens maybe, so let's assume the black circle here is the point. Maybe our bruisers kind of walk in and out of maybe a little bit bigger, maybe they kind of like walk like this, they kind of walk like this. And a lot of the clumps will probably happen within these red circles, right? Um, and then obviously we will have, the enemy healers. Let's say the enemy healers are walking around on the blue circle, right? What you guys want to do as mages is, if we assume that the bruises are probably gonna play, you know, uh, in and out of whether it's the point or maybe out here disrupting healers. They're basically walking in and out. The bruisers are forced to walk in and out, right? To do both. And what you'll see a lot of bruisers do is that they'll walk out here when they have no cooldowns. They'll left click some bruisers, cause some disruption, push them away, and then as soon as they get mauler sacks or refreshing on their grabs and shockwaves and stuff, they'll turn back in towards point and look for a big clump in the circle, right? So what you guys want to do as mages, okay, is that you want to sort of position yourself in a position where you're able to do both. Okay, so in a position basically where, like, you're able to, hop in, scream oblivion, hop out, maybe shower on a healer or storm and like just do disruption and help your bruiser and support your bruiser, maybe even peel the healer, like whatever it might be. But essentially you almost always want to position your body in a position where you're able to do both, where you're basically just standing in an optimal position to do both. So let me give you an idea of what I would want to do as a bruiser. Let's say my position is top left, right? I'm playing top left quadrant. That's my job as a bruiser. I'm gonna be having a lot of my fights, you know, around here, and then I'm gonna walk out here and do disruption. I'm gonna constantly walk in and out of these two circles. I'm gonna walk towards point. I'm gonna walk out and pressure. I'm gonna walk towards point, out towards pressure. Obviously, it's not black and white. I'm gonna move over to the right. I'm gonna move down to the left. But essentially, I would want my mage to almost always be in a position where he's in between what I want, what I'm playing for. So if I'm saying I'm playing top left, I want my mage to be in a position where he's in iframe range of whatever is happening around him. Um, I'll just better explain it here. So if we look at this, so obviously in this situation here, they've given up C, right? And here Sensei is playing top right. He's essentially right now putting his body in a top right position. Let me just pull up this boom. Okay, so obviously we have the entire point here, right? And we have all of the healers standing like this. Sensei is putting himself right here, so that as soon as a clump happens here, boom, iframe, scream, oblivion, right? Or let's say like this guy here, he gets slapped. Oh, cool, he can just turn, shower, heavy, right? So you're constantly just putting your body in positions where, um, uh, you're essentially just in a position to do everything effectively. Now, I'm sure all of you have probably experienced where like, you know, even if you're maybe in a decent position, like we'll see in a second here, where let's say you're down here on the side a little bit. So let's say right here. Okay, so let's assume a situation where let's say a clump happens right here, right? And maybe Sensei is standing here. I'm sure all of you have probably experienced where, oh, clump, I want to go scream it, and you then step towards it from this angle. You're gonna get staggered, and like your scream is not gonna be very nice. You're not gonna really hit everyone in that clump, and it feels really awful. And a lot of that is because of the angle that you're coming from. So once again, like, if we assume that a lot of the clumps that are happening are on roughly on the corners, just being able to put yourself in positions where it's more effective to actually like come in from a better angle, because a lot of the clumps start from the sides and up to the corners. So standing outside of that and putting your body up in these spaces here and coming from that angle is generally just going to be better for your screams as well. So, an example here is we're playing this a little bit here. Look, let's see if I can find a good situation here. So, for example here, so he obviously here Sensei gets caught a little bit in the clutter of things, and this is not really where you want to be as a mage. Like if you're going to be in this position ever, generally you just want to pop Oblivion and then you want to exit into a better position, right? But you guys can see how a lot of the fighting is happening here, and a lot of the fighting is happening here, and an enemy has a lot of free casters up here. Like, where do you think the best position for a mage is to be? I mean, once again, it's the same as a bruiser, right? Like, you want to go and put yourself into positions where you're, ready to essentially, like, you can stand here, you're ready to assist like this, you're ready to assist like this, you're ready to assist like this, and you're ready to fuck everyone and make everyone that stands here move. Okay, so let's see if we can see a good situation here where he is not really able to do much. Okay, but you can see how he's looking for a lot of things, right? But nothing is really happening, and like the screams are not so effective. But now imagine a scenario where right here, instead of jumping around like this, he just stands up here and puts his body here. Like, if at any point, like, let's say, like, he goes here and he says, oh, look at all these free casters on top road, and his Bruce is like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then now he just pops shower on this, just does a circle shower on 3 healers. What do you think? Yeah, the healer's not gonna die, right? But what do you think happens to the people on point? They don't get healing, right? So they die. So that's an effective way of killing the people on point. And not only that, like, let's say you're putting a body up here, like, once again, like a lot of the clumping is, a lot of the clumps are gonna appear here. So even if you stand here and you put a body here, once again, you can just iframe, scream from just a better angle, okay? And like here, like, look, instead of standing here, I mean, you should just pop the Oblivion already and just walked up here and put his body here, right? Um, so we'll talk a little bit about like what's it called? more like detailed stuff. But what I notice as well, not only from Sensei, but I notice it from all of you guys, is that we're way too passive with our oblivions. Okay, so even more than last patch. So I very much said this in Bonsai that Oblivion. A lot of mages have the old habit of Oblivion must be used in combination with Scream. That's just so not true because I don't think they're not really like a combo. They're just two individual spells that do two different things. And for me, Oblivion is something that can be used a lot more freely, and Scream is something that needs to be used, either to finish an individual off that's out of stam or something like that, or the obvious one is on a clump, right? Um, but Oblivion can be used a little bit more freely, and I want all of you guys as mages to start thinking about your Oblivion not only as an offensive tool to nullify the opponent's buffs, but also think about it as a sacred ground, literally sacred ground. Okay, this is the power of having a mage play with uh, uh, his bruisers. Is that I can tell you from a bruiser perspective, if I have a mage, every time I get into a clump fight or I'm having a little bit of a scrap, if a mage oblivions me, I will never lose. That's just how it works. Like stamina is king in this game. So I want you guys to just way more aggressively start using the oblivion, like almost on cooldown. Obviously, you shouldn't troll use it. But I'm just saying, if you're in a position like this, use it immediately, even if it's one guy. Use it right now for all these blues. Okay? Like I want to start seeing my mages use all these oblivions for their blues more so than anything. Like put oblivion down, move over, and pressure with other things. Uh, Pressure. Oh, cool. Now I've pressured a bit. Now I move close to the point again. Oblivion. Cool. Um, let's see if we can go to the fort. I think there was a moment as well where there was a good moment to oblivion instead of screaming. Let's see. So for example, okay. So I mean, this is a little bit bad example. Let's see if there's a better situation. Maybe I went too far actually. I remember seeing it earlier. Maybe I didn't actually. Okay, let's see. I'm sure we'll see something here, right? But yeah, for example, I mean, obviously, Oblivion should just be dropped, right? Like, while we're moving in here, we move a bit, we move a bit, we move a bit. Ideally, you've already passed, so you don't clump up with your teammates. Boom! As soon as this happens, response should be Oblivion and move. Oblivion, move, and move over here, and put your body over here. So you're not a part of this issue that's happening here. Just put down Oblivion and move past, so that you're saving these people here and giving yourself a little bit of stamina to continue forward. And then we continue a little bit. See if we can see the same situation. Okay, we don't really see the same situation, right? But ideally, again, like Oblivion should just be dropped, and then we move further. So this is the thing I also talked about, like in terms of advancing the fort. Let's see if I can actually find a better example for you guys. Give me a second. What posts? I remember the perfect example. What's it called? I'm gonna pull up some Michael's VOD here. He has a good example of. I think hopefully this is. Oh, this is not it. Where the fuck did he post it? Public VODs, I think. Public VODs.
My what? My what?
Yeah, the one where you're playing with me. You remember? Where we
Yeah, I
entered
will
the
send it
fort.
to you. One sec.
Maybe it's this one. It's an attack. I think this one. It's this one.
Yeah, it's it.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Okay,
No,
so let's
it's
see.
I'm playing BB. This wait.
Oh, not this one. Okay, it's not this one. Can you send it to me, please?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Was it this one? No, it's not this one either.
One sec.
No. And it might be this one. Yeah. It is this one. Yeah, perfect. I have it. Okay, so let's see if we can find the example I'm looking for. Okay, so look. this is a thing I want everyone to understand, especially all of our mediums. Okay, so when it comes to the fort, I already spoke a little bit with John about this. Um, so generally going forward, the call that John is going to be making is that once the gates are down and the horns are down, he's just gonna he's not gonna do a little bit of a he's not gonna do a countdown like individuals are gonna need to start seeing opportunities to just enter on their own. But he's probably gonna say something like, okay, now you can start looking to get in, or like you can start like getting in. Um, and what that essentially means is that it just gives you a go on, okay, anytime I see an opening as an individual, I can now look to push in. Okay, so an example would be this. Like John has just given permission to enter the fort, as like you guys can start looking to get into fort. Let's say me in this example, right? I've now pushed through one of the gates. I've managed to get inside. My job as an individual that gets in here is to come in here and allow and just sandwich pressure. The thing we talked about with the sandwich pressure, putting your body and just putting pressure and for making these guys realize that, oh shit, there's people behind us. And just essentially, I'm doing the same thing for mid here as well. Essentially, cause people's attention to allow people. Oh, this is a little awkward. To allow the people to enter, because we pull these people this way. Now we should be able to enter as individuals, right? We should just be looking to get inside. And the same goes for like, let's say over here, like once again, we want to avoid fighting over here as much as possible. I think I'm end up making a little bit of a mistake. I don't really explain what my thought process is here to my team, but we're moving over here. What we want to avoid as much as possible, we want to avoid this fighting as much as possible. We do not want fights to happen near the gates at all. All we're trying to do with these, this guy moving here or this guy moving here and doing this kind of pressure, it's it's not for the sake of killing. It's almost never for the sake of killing, unless there's enemies straight up bad. It's almost always just for the sake of sandwich pressuring, for the sake of creating space for you guys to enter. That's all it is. So, let's see if we do things wrong here. But I think I remember um, a lot of fighting happening here. But you can see how I'm already exiting. Right? I'm playing away. Same for Sun Micro as well. But there's so much fighting happening over here at the gate. And this is what we really, really don't want. Like, we just want people to get inside. Stop fighting at these gates. Come in here. Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm gonna have to close that. Boom. Okay. We just want people to, when they come through the gates, go over and put your body here. Go over and put your body here. Go over and put your body here. Maybe you go put your body here. Like, just get in first, and then you can look to fight. Okay? Take space first, then fight. Unless enemies inting. Of course, if enemies griefing, you can kill them. But if they're not griefing, play to get in first. So that's pretty much how it goes. Um, and I just want this to like as soon as this comes in. So in terms of like Fort as well as individuals, I want everyone to understand about like how the zones of the fort are gonna look. So obviously, if we look at, there's the point here, right? I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that a lot of the clumps happen here and right here, in these areas. So, and maybe even sometimes down here, maybe even sometimes here. Again, on these corners, a lot of the fighting happens. If we assume that hopefully we've finally gotten inside the fort, right? This is the quadrant now inside the fort. A lot of the fighting happens here. So once again, as a mage, if a lot of the fighting happens maybe here, maybe up here, maybe up here, it's maybe very effective to put your body here, right? Because you can just step, scream, step, scream, step, scream. And otherwise also just step oblivion and then back off again. Or maybe enemy has healers here. Oh, cool. I'm gonna step here. I'm just gonna shower him and make him move. Or just start left clicking him as a downtime. Or like whatever it might be, right? Like maybe your bruiser calls out like a healer that he's going a healer. Cool. You're super ready to quick scream him or quick shower him, right? So the effectiveness of just putting your body into these effective positions where step, scream, step, scream, step, scream, and obviously the same thing on the other side. Really fucking OP. It's so OP to just put your bodies in these positions. Um, so once again, like don't play out here. don't play out, don't walk around in this angle. This is a healer's walk. You're not a healer. You're a mage that puts themselves in a position that is in between the healers and the point. Somewhere in the middle. So you're able to step in and out and support everything basically. So obviously we spoke a little bit about like some of the fundamentals of positioning. I think that's a really good base. Actually, it took a lot less time in general. Obviously, we can have a little bit more detailed conversation as well. But obviously, I talked about like using Oblivion a little bit more aggressively. Like you can like let's say like a lot of the fighting might be happening here. You can obviously go and even if there's not a perfect scream clump, just go and put an Oblivion down and then walk away again. And then maybe a clump happens and then boom, you jump back in and you scream it. Like obviously we need to start using our Oblivions a little bit more aggressively, like Sacreds, like we talked about. But the same thing goes also for showers too. I want everyone to understand that like even just like let's say this is a mage, this guy's a mage, even just going here as a mage, even if there's no clump, just going and showering these people, really OP. This is really really OP. Like moving to places and just showering people, or going here just showering people. Like it might not seem like much, but essentially what you do, what that creates is it just creates pressure. It creates pressure, and pressure forces people to clump, and it forces people to use stam, forces people to use cleanses. Um, it creates presence as well. If you just as a mage, when we talked about good position, maybe you just stand here. If you're just standing and waiting for a clump to happen, you're not really being very effective. You're literally just letting go of your mouse and your keyboard and waiting for something to happen. But I want to start encouraging all of you guys as mages to similarly to bruisers that there is so much more than just your cooldowns. There's so much more than the clump and the support to clumps. There's the one thing we emphasize, which is the power of positioning, the power of presence with your body, and then there's the power of the filler stuff. If you see like maybe they have fucking 6 healers standing here. Even just as an individual mage, walking over here, maybe storming them, maybe starting to heavy them, just making all these fuckers move. It's OP. It's really, really OP. Like even if it's 2 healers as well, just going and showering them and just start left clicking them. It's really, really OP. There's so much more you can do as a mage outside of just being a support mage, like a clump support. Okay. Let's see if there's anything I didn't cover. I think for the most part I covered the fundamentals. Are there any questions to everything we just discussed? No questions? Is everything relatively simple?
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
you with shower placement, right?
Yeah.
And claim and space claiming.
Yeah.
Is it more beneficial to place showers closer around the point to like stop a counter bomb or to cut a counter bomb in half or something like that, or to disrupt healers?
I think both are incredibly effective. Essentially,
Okay.
what you're asking is, what is the best way to kill the clump, right? Because at the end of the day,
Yeah, or
yeah,
to keep your clump alive.
yeah. So at the end of the day, like the game comes down to not only building pressure, but obviously pressure should lead to kills, right? Clumps should lead to kills, and killing should lead to man advantage, which then turns into pressure, which then turns into more kills, right? So you're essentially playing for snowball. But everything kind of goes hand in hand. So if we're talking about disrupting, we're talking about clump killing. You don't in this game right now. Ever since they changed the thing about being able to iframe in showers or being able to iframe in grabs, clumps do not die on their own. They don't die if you land a grab, if you land a shockwave, if you land a detonate, if you land a scream, if you land an oblivion. Clumps do not die on their own. These against good players, okay? I want to make that clear. Against good players, that doesn't happen. The only way clumps die, like, is obviously you need to meet all those conditions. You need to obviously land certain things, like maybe a grab needs to be involved, maybe a scream needs to be involved, maybe an oblivion needs to be involved, maybe a shockwave. These things obviously need to happen for clumps to die, but it's not as black and white as that. Like for that clump to die, you need a certain amount of pressure. The enemy healers need to feel that pressure, So like, you know, if we're talking about, let's say right here, a big clump happens. Let's say I'm a bruiser. Ooga booga. I go fight in this clump. I throw grab. I go shockwave. The only way for me to kill this clump is if I know there's another bruiser hitting the 6 healers standing here, or hitting the 6 healers standing here, or right here. And the same goes for mages too. The only way for, you know, let's say, you know, this guy's a mage. He walks here. He wants to help his bruiser and kill it, puts Scream in Oblivion or a shower on the clump. Obviously, you can shower as well. It's similar to a Scream on the clump. The only way for this mage and this bruiser to kill this clump is if there's another mage making these healers not freely cast onto the clump. It's a hand-in-hand experience. It's an accumulation that causes clumps to die, effectively. So just to, I know I circled around your question a little bit, but essentially my answer to your question is both are extremely good. I think if you, you know, if you're in a position like let's say maybe a clump is happening here, maybe a clump is happening here, and you're standing here, you know, if you're able to immediately, you don't have scream or something, and you see it's super juicy, like I think just trust your instincts, whatever you think is best in the moment. If you can go and shower them, by all means, please do that. I think that's amazing value. Hopefully, someone else can do the disruption, right? But of course, at the same time, you know, maybe if no clump has really happened, or maybe you're just a little bit too far away from the clump that happens. Like maybe you're maybe standing here, right? Maybe a clump happens. Oh, your bruisers say, look top right of point, look top right of point, and you're just a little bit too far away. But hey, next to you is 3 healers looking at the same clump. You know, maybe the better value is, right, to go and shower these people and just start left clicking them. Because what you're doing is you're supporting this clump, right? You're supporting the clump that your bruisers called out or that John called out. You're supporting them indirectly. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I just get worried that like we place showers too far away from the point, or
Yeah.
just allows people to freely rotate.
Yeah. No, I think in general, I think as long as we're putting our bodies in you know, a little bit more aggressive positions, I think generally speaking, I think we should see our showers getting more value, and oblivions too, and screams as well, honestly. Um, obviously, with this, we didn't really talk too much about point stepping. So obviously, you know, when it comes to you know, defense, it's a matter of matching, not ticking. It's a matter of matching, not necessarily deticking. It's just about making sure it doesn't tick. That is the number one priority. Obviously, sometimes, you know, if like let's say, you know, we're talking about the standard quadrant situation. Let's say we're playing defense, right? Of course, if you know, let's say, you know, little Johnny is standing down here. Okay, his entire sector is clear. Maybe even back right is clear. And like we've effectively pushed people away or push people up, or maybe there's not much value to be had by moving like this or moving like this. Generally speaking, I will encourage everyone to just start thinking about where can I add, like where can I add value. So you know, if you can add value by stepping into point or putting your body on point, it's really good. Like if you feel like you need to just point step, just do that. Like just stand on the edge and just tick it. Um, Maybe you don't need to do it for super long. As a mage, you can just point step, pop an oblivion, look around to the left, to the right, pay attention to where you want to go next. Sometimes you just want to stay, that's fine. But you know, other times you maybe want to come oblivion, stand there for a couple of seconds, look for a little bit of value, boom. So maybe you want to scream on a guy on the point, and then, oh cool, okay, I'll either go back to my quadrant, or oh cool, okay, I will try to advance a bit, or maybe advance a bit, right? Um, so point stepping is definitely something that I don't want to discourage, as much as I'm talking about, you know, good positioning. We do obviously need a lot of our mages and a lot of our bruisers, mediums, to understand how to point step, um, when to point step, um, and obviously that depends on whether we're playing attack or defense, right? Obviously on attack it's a little bit more. We have to be a little bit more aggressive with actually putting our bodies on the point, and just playing to bait a little bit more. So mages is generally speaking one of the better bait classes. You know, you can, like let's say here in attack, you can honestly, as a mage, you can go and put your body on point, and you can just put an oblivion down. People will start funneling you. You can just start iframing in your oblivion. Cool. And what ends up happening is that you create clumps with your body, and you know you have infinite iframes with your oblivion. You know, you might have your showers, you might have your entomb, And then as soon as you've maybe used your entomb, or maybe you've used a lot of your stamina, or you've caused a lot of people to clump around you, boom, you exit into a position where, once again, you have good value or good access to that clump from the outside. So that's definitely something I want you guys to be mindful of. But I think that's a little bit more detailed, and those are things we'll be going over in the individual coaching meetings with all of you. Are there any other questions, guys?
How do you want your mages to kind of play around the healing and stuff? Do you don't want them to ask for sacreds and stuff? You want bruisers to do that, right? So,
Yeah, it's extremely rare that I would want my mage to call for a sacred. I think there's some situations, like I said, I think if you're putting your body on point, and you're causing everyone to fucking dog you, and you know that maybe in that moment, maybe your bruises aren't calling for it. I could definitely see it, like you justifying calling for a sacred, right? Especially if like you're saying, oh, they're dogging me, and your bruiser says, um, okay, yeah, let's like I'm going on you basically. I'm going on that mage. I'm gonna grab on that. Um, in those situations, I think it's justified for the healer to sacred, but in my experience, I've never really witnessed a mage actually being the one that calls for it. I think that's more a healer judgment thing. Like again, as a healer, you should be just having overview of the field, and if you see one guy getting dogged while the rest of your raid is kind of just playing to pressure in advance, and they're not, that they're probably not gonna need sacred. By all means, do pop a sacred on him because, like I said, if they're dogging your mage, your bruisers should be following up on that and punishing that. Right? That's not allowed. So,
yeah, it's good. I think also like bruiser wise, I think bruisers in general should be more vocal about like healing and stuff, because often like if
yeah,
they do call it, it's way too late. It's like they fucking insta that do when you
yeah,
react to the call. So
yeah. We'll be going over that in the bruiser meeting after this one.
yeah, it's pretty helpful. So
Yep.
all right.
Are there any other questions, guys?
It's not a question. It's rather than whether if it's better to do it or not. Um, I see some people screaming like two healers and
Yeah.
from different bots, and they're not even call it. Do you think that's a waste of
I
scream?
think for that to be justified, it's again it's extremely situational because obviously scream is a very important cooldown that like should be used as effectively as possible. Like I said, generally speaking, it should be used on clumps or individuals without stamina that you're going to kill, right? That someone's already dogging, like another bruise is already going on, right? Or maybe a great sword is already on. Like generally speaking, your scream should be used in that manner. I think there are moments where, once again, like we talked about with the shower, right? Like if you're a little bit too far away from the top right clump, but you want to support it, and you see that's two healers next to you, but you don't have a shower, you don't have something else, I think it's fine to scream it. Just scream these people and just start left clicking them or scream them and just like orb them or just make them fucking scared. Make them move. Because I promise you, like I know how healers think and how healers react. I mean, you can go and watch all of our healers VODs as well. Everyone reacts the same. They get hit, they feel forced to move. It's just human behavior. So I think there are moments where it's okay to scream healers, but I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how many people are there yet, in terms of being able to make that judgment. So for the most part, I think my initial answer would just be no. Avoid doing that as much as possible. But obviously, I think I also don't want to say like never do that. Um, I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah. Another thing I want to ask also about the storm placement. I see so many
Yeah.
people just placing storms inside a clump, where if, in my opinion, if they save it and place it like somewhere on like light users, not necessarily healers, but like just
Mm,
place it like somewhere where like they can put pressure on that spot so that the enemies from in that spot can like start moving away from the storm, because as you said yourself, once healers get hit they just start panicking and they move, and if you place like storms on them, you're gonna make them force them to move. Like for example, yeah, where you're circling right now, if we
yep.
have a storm right there,
Yep.
they're gonna
Yep.
move around and start like panicking.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
for
want
sure.
to make
No, yeah,
that clear.
100%. You're completely correct. It's the same thing as like showering on these people, right? Like that you know
Yeah,
storm
but
shouldn't only be used on point, right? And like
the thing-
on clumps.
The thing with shower is that you have to be closer to that
Yeah.
area. Where storm you can just do it from afar. I just see so many votes from different people just placing storms on top of clump. Basically, you're just basically stat padding, which I sometimes I even do it myself. If I'm being honest, but I would rather like just like
Mhm.
have a look around me, see where's the enemy healers standing, and just place a storm on them.
Yeah, it's
Just
like
in
a
case
solid, it's a
cause
solid
havoc.
balance, right? At the end of the day, the best answer is always what gives the most value. Like, how can I find the most value with my storm, right? With any of my spells, you know. So whether it's like maybe there's not a lot of healers, but there's a big clump. Like, obviously, storming the clump is probably best 9 out of 10 times, right? But obviously, at the same time, what you're saying as well is like if enemies stacking maybe 6 healers, 9 out of 10 times storming all these 6 healers is better than randomly storming on point or randomly
Not,
storming any of these bruises, right?
not just on healers. You can also place it when respawns are happening to slow them down, for
Yep,
example.
for sure,
But yeah,
100%.
I just want to see like our mages to be less more to placing storms more carefully than just rather than just spamming it.
Yep, definitely.
I think it's very similar to a shower as well. Is that like you can slow enemies coming into clumps,
Yeah, for sure.
and also obviously the damage is it's not really there anymore, but it's mostly just for the slowers.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you as a
So
bruiser, right? Like one of the most annoying things that happens to me is if a mage decides to randomly shower me, because as a bruiser, it's very much about pace because you're playing a lot based on stacks, right? So if I'm like walking a little bit on the outskirts and trying to refresh my grab and my shockwave, or like stacking up maulers or whatever it might be, if I get randomly showered with another bruiser, you completely remove their stacks and you completely fuck up their tempo. Like they have to use so much time to recover and then get over to the next target again that it's so fucking disgusting. Like it's so OP. Just like you can honestly use shower a lot more creatively rather than just only using it on the obvious clump, right?
Yeah.
but
Any other
storm as
points
well
or
is like
questions?
is a 25 percent slow, right?
Which one?
Storm.
Not entirely sure actually, but it's
I think
significant.
it's something around there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite a large slow, so I
Yep.
don't know. I don't think it's a waste putting it on clumps. I don't.
No, it's not. I mean, it should be used in clumps, but generally speaking, like like Sensei said, like if there's like 4 healers standing like this, like they should be stormed, right?
Yeah.
If there's a clump of respawn wave coming in, like they should be stormed. Or whether it's like rotation from C coming over to B, like they should be stormed, right? Like, essentially what he's saying is that storm shouldn't just be defaulted to point or defaulted to clumps near point, right? We need to start being a little bit more conscious of our storms, essentially. One thing we didn't touch on is what's it called? Detonate. Um, I think it's not maybe not so relevant for mages as it is bruisers, but generally speaking, like if I see a lot of mages just completely stamming out. Like if let's say they go and scream or oblivion or whatever, and the enemy is like popping a detonate, they're just completely like stamming out and like running away for their lives. I I know it is scary, and sometimes you can get one tapped, but you are a mage, you're a tanky mage. Generally speaking, when you're going over to these clumps or where people are detonating and stuff, generally speaking, there should be an oblivion on the ground, and a lot of times you're gonna have entomb as well. So I do wanna see our mages starting to be just play a little bit more confident. Like I don't think there should almost ever be a situation where you're forced to stam out. Um, Especially if you have oblivion down or if you have entomb. Generally speaking, I would like to see you play around a little bit more aggressively on your oblivions. And if enemies detonating or you got forced to go down to 10 stamina and your next iframe is going to bring you to 0 stamina, perhaps you should be entombing, right? um, but for the most part, just play with a little bit more confidence. Like mage is, it's an OP role. It really is. It's more than just a dog. So I definitely want to see us play a little bit more aggressively. um, and just also as mages, like even if you're a back left mage or back right mage, be a little bit more willing to add extra value to the neighboring quadrant as well as point. be a little bit more willing to put your body into more impactful positions, even if your assigned position is a specific quadrant. I do not want to see a single mage or a single bruiser in New World right now feeling confined or chained down or restricted to a specific spot. I want to really want to encourage as much as possible all of our mages to think about value. That's the number one thing. Value. Where can I add value? Okay. Any final questions from anyone? Maybe there's some specific things about like some of the runes and the gems you guys have figured out that you think is relevant to share right now. I know we spoke a little bit in the mage chat. Anyone with conclusions on that stuff
I think,
on the gems?
my opinion, I think both are viable, and we should probably split them around the raid, so we don't
Like the
stack
ice and the
damage.
void?
I think both are viable. I think the void slightly wins in
Yeah.
like damage, but I think we should be spreading them, right? Like we want.
I mean, probably. I mean, I don't see our opponents really like item or gemming specifically for void or ice, to be honest. Unless they have insider info that like we're only focused on ice or only focused on void. Perhaps I could see them doing it, but I don't imagine it being the end of the world. But I think it's just like you said.
No,
I mean,
but like you can, if an orb, say 2 orbs hit and one has ice and one has void, like both
Yeah.
of those ticks are gonna apply. If both have void,
okay.
then only one tick is gonna apply.
Okay. I mean, I think
So
what I'll do is in the mid chat, I will make a post that says react if you use void and react if you use ice, and we can just get a little bit of an idea. How does that sound?
sounds good.
Okay, I'll do that right now. React with green if you use void.
There is
React
something I
with-
wanna mention that is more advanced. I don't know if I should like speak it now since all like most of our mages are here.
Yeah.
Or it's more advanced about the IG's ice gauntlet skill tree. Um, it's really tough thing to do. There is a passive on the ice gauntlet on the right side, where if you do a nice ability under a frost area, you get 20% cooldown. I don't know
Yeah.
if many people are aware of it, but it is so OP. Like if you manage to do it and you keep track of your cooldowns on your ice gauntlet, you're gonna see a huge value of if you do the passive right. I know it's a hard thing, and with like in wars, you're distracted by many things. By like for example, positioning, following your bruiser, and trying to survive. But if we start to know, like realize that we are under a frost area and we cast an ability, you're gonna see a lot of your cooldowns coming back really fast.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into details into this. I would rather like save it, and I'm gonna just post uh, like a guide, a small guide in the mage channel, and then I will advise every mage to start like improving on that. It is really OP, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yep.
I used to didn't take cleanse on Tomb to take that passive.
Oh no. Oh no. I mean,
Oh,
everyone at dispatch should have it, right? I mean, no one does. Anyone even play with ultimate chill?
I don't
I
think so.
think so.
Yes, everyone has
Well,
cleansing
I think
too.
it's completely useless now. I don't think it's worth it at all.
Question. By
You
the
have
way,
to-
does
You have to
anyone
shower
know?
and then storm to get the benefits. Shit.
So I haven't tested this myself, but if I am in my for example, one of my group like friends mage, other mage in my in my side, I'm standing in his shower and I casted an ability like an ice gun ability. Does the passive
Yeah,
apply?
Yeah, any enemy friendly anything.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Nice. But yeah, now everyone kind of has a baseline, right, of what's expected on the fundamental side. You know, again, you know, whether you get coaching from me or Sensei or whoever it might be in the future,
Or like,
or whether you're reviewing your own VOD, because I'm sure that all of you are very capable of doing these things on your own as well. Like whenever you're looking at these things, it's just as simple as every 3 seconds, boom, you pause and you see, oh, where can I put my body? Like where can I move? Where should I go? What? And then after you saw what you did, you resume it and you see what you did, and you just slow improvement, slow improvement. Yep. That's definitely my best advice to how you improve on your own as well.
um, one more thing. What do you think about sucking passive?
Which one?
The sucking passive from the Void one.
The sucking passive.
Yes,
Um,
I like.
yeah. So I know you guys love that shit. I know John is a big fan of that shit. I was personally using it as well myself when I was playing Mage. But I don't think I use it as often as you guys do. I rather personally see it as a like I do one suck into an iframe and I just move, and then I'll do one suck iframe and just move. Like in rotation situations where I'm like, because whenever I have cooldowns, I would generally speaking pop a regen potion. Generally speaking, like do a right click tick, and then also just use the downtime, right? Like the downtime where you don't have cooldowns or value to bring, move my body into a better position so that when my cooldowns come off, like when my spells come off cooldown, that I'm in a better position to support that, right?
Yeah.
So
So
I think right clicking is really OP, but I think it should be used similarly to how you use like a regen pot or just downtime, basically, right?
yeah, so how I do it, or I try to in wars,
Yeah.
is so basically you're talking about positioning, mages positioning, where like one iframe or one dodge, you're gonna help with the point, and one dodge you're gonna like
Yeah.
disturb the healers. So this is something I try to do.
Mhm.
So for example, because my group are like very vocal, and whenever like my bruiser starts to grab, like let's say top right, for example, it is just instinct by me. I go in, scream, oblivion, and I know
Yeah.
for a fact that like my bruiser has a sacred under himself. So I jump in
Yeah.
into the clump, scream, oblivion, and then jump out. And then just
Yeah.
do like a random orb like into like the biggest clump just to get like the
Yeah.
cooldown ready. After that, I know I remember that the sacred is still there in top right. So what I
You
do,
walk into it.
yes, so I walk into it, like positioning myself towards top right under the sacred, and then that's when I start sucking myself. It is
Yeah. So
like
so my
sometimes I try to
yeah.
do it, but it's really, really good in my opinion because you're positioning yourself
Yeah.
where you are closer to the point, under a sacred, protected by and
Yeah.
fortified, and then you're just trying to get your cooldowns back.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I think obviously if you can take advantage of like random sacreds just around in general, like maybe even one from your own group's sacred, like obviously you can take advantage of that. That's cool. The one thing I'm worried about in terms of that is obviously, if I would hope that you're trying to advance it, the fight a little bit as well, because a lot of the times what ends up happening is that if let's say you just went and screamed an oblivion in a clump, right, and you just killed that clump, and maybe there's a sacred on it, and now everyone's scattered, like the clump fight has ended. I wouldn't necessarily want you to just by default like go into that sacred and just start stalking. I'm not saying you do, but generally speaking, as soon as you've added value, for me, it's better that you're mindful of where where should I go next? Where should I put my body next to add value next? More than maybe being focused on, okay, actually I want to suck myself, or I want to go into that sacred while doing it. Like this is not I like, again, if that's something you can do naturally, or it happened naturally, fine. But I'm just saying, like, I would want everyone here to, whenever you have cooldowns, be a little bit more focused on um what's next, where do I need to position myself when my cooldowns come off.
But that's what we should like aim for, right? Is
Yeah.
you should be able to naturally be in a safe position to suck yourself. So when you do, like when you are looking around for the next clump or whatever, you have your cooldowns ready to assist that clump.
Yep. For sure,
I
100%.
think like obviously like maybe next patch when they change chain, we would want to auto attack more because we proc ultimate. But for now, I think having a consistent 10% cooldown reduction is just really strong.
Yeah,
Obviously,
no,
you
100%.
can get 10% on auto attacks too if you crit and they have 3 debuffs, but
Yeah,
that's not going to happen all the time.
yeah. I mean, for sure that. I mean, there's obviously moments where it's worth to left click, right? Like
Yeah,
while you're
absolutely.
rotating or like you're moving to a better position, like you're shifting over up to the top side, like you just assisted the right side. Maybe you want to move over to the top side, like. Maybe you see a guy getting hit, or maybe a guy is just like free casting, and you just want to make him move. Like you can do a little left click on him, and while you're moving, right? Like that's fine. But yeah, in general, I agree. Like I think doing the self sock is really really good, really underused for sure. And generally speaking, I think it should be done in these downtimes, and I think I would hope that generally speaking, in these downtimes, we're one focusing on moving to a better position, and then number two, while we're moving, we're popping region pot, and we're doing a little bit of a self shock, and then moving into a better position, and then boom, our cooldowns come off again, and then we're instantly ready from a better position to add value with Oblivion or Scream or whatever it might be.
Also, Void Caller, the left
Void
side
Crawler?
ultimate passive thing.
Void Caller, yeah, the ultimate.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that's worth taking, even though it makes you take more damage with invigorated punishment?
Um, no, I think it's just role playing, to be honest, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Just hardly any healing.
I
it
mean,
does it does more than mending evasion right now for some reason, but
mending evasion is kind of useless, I think.
if on paper it doesn't sound too bad. Like it's better than other passives, but
Yeah.
for some reason it only heals for 300, and
I mean,
that's
I would take it for the role play. I feel like I'm powerful when I have that shit around me. You know what I'm saying?
it's true. Could be like an
But you don't need to
Asperceiver.
use it.
Huh?
You don't need to take it.
No, I mean, you can take it if you want. For me, it
I
makes no real
wouldn't
difference.
take it because it makes you take damage, but meh,
Yeah.
that's just
No, I mean,
me,
anyway,
so.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you probably shouldn't take it, but again, if you want to role play, it's fine. That's kind of my take. I don't really care too much. Any last words before we conclude the meeting? Obviously, we're going to be having the bruiser thing, and a lot of the fundamentals are going to be relatively similar. So if you want to sit in, I think it is valuable for mages to understand bruiser. But at the same time, if you don't have time or don't want to, that's fine. It's in 28 minutes.
Tic tac.
But yeah, thanks for coming, guys. It was nice to see this many people. I hope it was helpful as well. And yeah, like the best thing that can happen now is going forward. We just steady improvement. And I'm telling you that the fundamental things we talked about immediately will just bring up your game like 2 times. So definitely do focus on these things, and then we go from there. Like it's not gonna be perfect from the start, but maybe you're gonna die a little bit more. But hopefully you will also see yourself having a little bit more impact as an individual.